is difficult because I think you need to have a dedicated protocol. You know, first of all, what type of cases and what type of different states have different types of protocols and what type of cases they do. So in high risk patients, you have to look at the bleeding risk. So I believe like what I mentioned just now, AVR STEMI, at the moment the evidence is still 2A. For AVR STEMI and so on, there's no evidence to start upstream GP2B3A inhibitors per se, the anecdotal reports, but it will be useful if I believe there's a delay. If there's no delay, then you might as well do the PCI and then take it from there. So you actually decrease the risk of complications of GP2B3 inhibitors. In a patient's, like, for example, typical Malaysian scenario of failed thrombolysis, you must understand, patient already is on DAPT, 2 drugs, is already thrombolized, is given IV anticoagulation or heparin, and this will be the 5th drug, the patient will be on to give. So there's always a risk of increased bleeding. So you actually have to weigh both of these. The other thing is in patients with shock, you also worry about more bleeding, especially if you, nowadays you do radial puncture, so bleeding risk is lower. But with femoral punctures, if you were to put intra-aortic balloon pump and so on, the bleeding risk, so you have to weigh this. So I think the debate is still out there whether you want to start this routinely. It should be case-to-case basis. Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Asmi? What do you think?
Yeah, Alan, it's a very, very good question. I think a question from that point. And I think Sri Ranga has mentioned it, and I totally agree with him. For me, is when we perform a procedure, there is always associated risk, bleeding risk. Yeah. So, and this bleeding risk, sometimes we underestimate it. Okay. So, because, some doctors, they don't see it when it passed through their cath lab, when they're in CCU and stuff. But then managing patients with bleeding, groin, upper GI bleed is very, very substantial. And indeed, it will make the prognosis very, very poor in these type of patients, especially in the patients who had a cardiogenic shock and infarct. So my opinion is severe delay, yes, I do. I do want them to have something, at least to cover them, until they go in for an intervention. But if there is no delay that I foresee, I would prefer them to be on DAPT, maybe some parenteral anticoagulation, and then perform the coronary angioplasty, and then decide whether you need to give them GP2/3 inhibitor, something like the case where Sri Ranga, presented just now. But I'm not such a big fan of giving it early, unless if I'm desperate, because of the risk of bleeding.
Okay, so let me ask Ali, who like me is outside the Klang Valley. So Ali, in the northern areas, let's say you have a patient in Seberang Jaya who's a TIMI-6 non-ST elevation MI, who's coming to the hospital, that hospital at 5 p.m. and you said, okay, we transfer to HPP. Would you consider starting tirofiban upstream, or would you wait till the patient comes in and you assess the patient in the cath lab the following morning?
I think basically, thank you very much, Alan, for the nice practical question. So basically that now no more we are using anymore the upstream management of this drug. And more so, it's a lot of doctors outside the cardiology services, they didn't know how to use, also they didn't have access to these drugs. So that is the second. So thirdly, we don't practice this because we also going to have a problem, as in the guideline clearly stated that what dose of heparin you use, what is the ACT range. So if you use the upstream dose that been sort of recommended, if you delay in the, when you want to schedule for the cases, so there's a lot of issues that potentially going to have. And also these trials, all that being done that Dr. Asri have shown, it's all not the era that we are using the potent P2Y12 inhibitors. So, so these are the issues that we are going to have. So in my practice, basically, we don't use anymore upstream of GB2B3A. We only use as a bailout in the cath lab. And even in the cath lab, the tricky part is that basically because when you take the angiogram, you think sometimes you can get away without using the GB2A. So you tend to use a higher dose of heparin. Later, you realize that, sometimes you have a slow flow. that's where you're going to call in for the glycoprotein troponin with the ACT is already in the higher. So this is the challenge for the interventional cardiologists. We tend to push the boundary and then we see how it goes then. But of course, when somebody we are dealing with very frail, with a recent history of stroke and a bleeding history and platelet is less than 100,000, these are the cases are very much worried of. Yeah. So that's my take on
Alan,
that. Yeah.
sorry, I just want to say something. There's
Sure.
always been this myth of GP2B3 inhibitors must be given intracoronary. So for me, if you look at all the trials, they talk about IV, IV tirofiban. So what we are doing is actually off-label. So nowadays, I changed my practice 3 years ago after talking to Prof. Alan Yung from Stanford, where he uses a lot of GP3BA inhibitors. I just give IV bolus. So what it frees me in a practical point of view, I don't have to, put another catheter into the coronary artery, give a slow injection over 3 minutes or whatever, waste my time. So my nurse will give the IV bolus, tirofiban, while I do my work. So nowadays, if I see a very big thrombus burden patient with ATO, acute total occlusion, I automatically, because nowadays we use less of aspiration catheters, I usually give upfront IV. So I'm actually freed. I don't have to bother about intracoronary and things like that. So just a practical point in that sense. And most of the patients, I don't actually follow up with infusion anymore if the flow is already good. And nowadays, I need just give 12 hours. Because it's quite expensive. 1 vial of tirofiban is more than 2,000 ringgit. You need 2 vials. So what we have is sometimes we have, after the bolus, we have some bucky or, balance. So I give it over 3 to 6 hours, just finish up the balance so I don't lose out. But if the patient really has bad slow flow and so on, then I give over 12 to 24 hours. So this is what the practice in Sedang Hospital. Thank you.
Very interesting comment, and that reflects one of the questions from our audience. Dr. Liu from Queen Elizabeth Hospital in KK, one of my mentors, who also has asked about the use of intracoronary tirofiban. So